input output to the kernel mode where the operating system is having control, and it is making the CPU do things. So this is the general thing. So user and kernel mode to some extent maps directly to input output burst and CPU burst. Input output burst means the something is happening, you are entering a key, or you're talking through Teams, or you're deleting a file. The input output is going on, some process is going on through the user, and the CPU burst means the CPU is doing something, doing the execution. Now I also told you, we learned in the earlier class about long-term scheduler, medium-term or swapping, which we'll see later, and short-term scheduler, which is the CPU scheduler. So processes will be in different states. We have already seen waiting, ready, running, terminated, and during this time the CPU does the schedule. There is a queue, and using the dispatcher module, it pushes the processes into the queue, and it schedules. The CPU executes process by process. Now I also told you that the scheduling algorithm should be in such a way that we should have maximum CPU utilization, maximum usage of the CPU, where the CPU is not idle, maximum throughput or output, less waiting time, less response time, and less turnaround time. I told you the difference between turnaround and response is that response time means you are giving a ping. First time he is answering is the response. Turnaround means you are giving the first ping. When he completes the process, that is the turnaround. Now I also told you the simple algorithm we tried, FCFS scheduling, is not at all good. You see the situation, P1 is 24, P2 is 3, P3 is 3, but P2 and P3 have to wait for a long time for P1 to execute, and the waiting time is very low. So we go for an SJF, for a shortest job first, where we go for the one with the smallest thing. So here, if you see, the waiting time is significantly reduced. If you see this shortest job first, here we are also taking the lowest one first and then going. I also told you that we can also predict the CPU burst. What is the next CPU burst? We can predict it based on historical data, or also based on some other logic. If, for example, if alpha is 0, means we are predicting not based on the past data, but on some other logic. We can also go past last 5 bursts, or last 2 bursts, last 3 bursts. Based on that, we can do a predicting, and we can also predict the next burst time. That is one way to do a prediction also. So we do not know about the CPU burst time, but we can predict based on some logic. So the logic could be the priority of the process, could be the time of the process, could be the past history. So many factors are there, so that we can predict the next burst based on the past data, or not based on the past data, but on parallel. But that is the thing, logic that you can use. Now the other scheduling algorithms that we use is, one, we can use what is known as a priority schedule. We can give a priority to the schedule, right? So we know, irrespective of the burst time needed, we give a priority, means we give that process will get the highest priority. Here P2 will have the first priority, then P5 will have the next priority, then and so on. But sometimes this priority can also change, because see, sometimes there is also a slotting required. So in some cases that also need not be followed, but generally speaking, we can give a priority. So this does not map directly to this, but the idea is P2 will come first, then P5 will come, then P1 will come, then P3 will come, P4. This diagram is wrong, but what I'm trying to say is that we can have a priority scheduling. But the priority scheduling comes with a problem. In some cases, there could be a starvation. Low priority processes may never execute. This is a problem. This is going to be a major problem that we face. Another problem that we face is what is known as aging. As the time processes, this is a solution. That is, low priority processes will never execute, but we can give a factor of the aging process. As the time increases, the priority will also increase. So this is an example of priority schedule. Another is like a bus system. Each process gets a small amount of CPU time. That quantum you can decide. Okay, this much time every process will get in a round robin fashion. So if your quantum is 4, P1, even though it requires 24, it will in the first slot it will get out of the 24. You can do some part of the process for the first time quantum. Then P2 will come. There is a time quantum is 4, but P2 only requires 3. So then you complete 3. Then you move to P3, but time quantum is 4. P3 requires only 3. So P1, P2, P3. And then what happens? P1 continuously gets executed in time quantums of 4. So this is a very good algorithm, more efficient kind of algorithm, which has a better turnaround than shortest job first, and better response. We are effectively using based on the time quantum. We can also change this time quantum. See, depending upon the processes. If this is 555, there's no point. You can have 5 time quantum can be 5. If this is 5, 10, and 15, again we can use the time quantum. So like that you can decide the time quantum in a round robin fashion. And it is the context switch that that is one this thing. If you say that the quantum is 12, one context switch is not there. Context switch is something like a break statement, something like that. So round robin scheduling is another good method. We can put a time quantum. We can also give a context switch like a break statement to do this. This is more efficient than SJF or priority scheduling. And finally, we can have what is known as a multi-level queue. So the ready queue can be divided into the ready queue can be divided into basically into two parts, a foreground and a background. In a foreground, we can have a different set of algorithm, and background we can have a different algorithm. So in a multi-level queue, you can have foreground using round robin and background using FCFS. This is also possible in a multi-level queue. So you have divided the ready queue into two parts. And you can also have different algorithms, different this thing. So if RR and starvation, you can use FCFS and time slice. Like that, you can have mixed kind of things in the multi-level. You can assign priorities also in a multi-level. You can give this foreground process the highest priority. You can give this background process the lowest priority. You can have a different scheduling algorithm for system processes. You can use round robin here. Here you can use SJF depending upon your requirement. So that is what I was trying to say. So this here different time quantum also you can have. So this is a foreground queue. Here you are having a quantum of 8 and a round robin. This is a middle queue. Here you are having a quantum of 16 and you are having round robin. The last of the background queue, you are having an FCFS or first come first serve. So depending upon the kind of application, you can have multi-level queues. System processes may be one queue, interactive processes may be another queue, batch processes may be other queue, and so on. So that's all for scheduling. I will close for today. Let me take the attendance. Ardra Nair, Aaron and Ashika, please raise your hands. Okay. Abhay, Krishna, Aishwarya and Akash. Abhay. Hey. Anjali, Ankita, Anne Maria. Ankita. Arundhati, Ashwin, Ashwin Anand. The others, please unraise, please. Okay. Bhavana, Dhanushri, Dhruva. Okay. Dinesh, Kirtana, Priya, Krishnendu. Okay. Kritika, Lakshmi, Malavika. Kritika, Lakshmi, Malavika. Okay. Niveda, Pranav, Kannan, Prashant V. Shri Bala, Satyan, Shivada. Satyan Shivada. Satyan Shivada.